The pregnancy test stared back at me from the guest bathroom trash can like a neon sign advertising my worst nightmare. 2 pink lines. Clear as day. Clear as the fact that Vara and I hadn't been intimate in 3 months. I'm Zane Merrinor, and I've been running Merrinor Electric for 8 years now. Built it from nothing after Dad decided Corey was better suited for management, while I got my hands dirty with actual work. Funny how that turned out. My company now employs 12 people and handles half the commercial electrical work in this Rust Belt town. The bathroom door creaked as I stepped back into the hallway. Vara was in the kitchen, humming while she made coffee. Same routine as always. Pour the beans, start the grinder, check her phone while it brewed. She looked up when I entered, and something in my expression must have given me away. "You found it?" she said. Not a question, just a statement, delivered with the same tone she used when discussing grocery lists. "Yeah, I found it." I leaned against the counter, studying her face. "Want to tell me how this happened?" Vara set down her phone and turned to face me fully. Her auburn hair caught the morning light streaming through our kitchen window, the same window I'd installed myself when we moved in 2 years ago. She was beautiful, always had been. That's what made this so much harder. "It's Corey's," she said simply. The words hung in the air between us like smoke. I waited for her to say something else, anything else. An explanation, an apology, hell, even a lie would have been better than this casual admission. "Corey's," I repeated. "My brother Corey." "Yes. How long?" 6 months. She poured her coffee, added cream, still following her routine. "Maybe 7. I did the math. 6 months ago was right around the time Corey started coming over for Sunday dinners again. Mom's idea. She thought it would be good for the family to spend more time together. I'd been working late most Sundays, trying to finish the Henderson warehouse project ahead of schedule. "The family knows," Vara continued, stirring her coffee with mechanical precision. "Corey told your parents yesterday. They're concerned about how you'll handle this." "Concerned about how I'll handle finding out my fiancée is pregnant with my brother's child?" The laugh that came out of me sounded foreign. "Yeah, I can see why that might worry them." My phone buzzed against the counter. Dad's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then watched as it immediately started ringing again. "You should answer," Vara said. "They want to talk to you about this situation." "This situation?" I picked up the phone on the 3rd ring. "Hello, Dad." "Zane, son, we need to talk." His voice carried that particular tone he used when he was about to ask me to do something I wouldn't want to do. "Can you come over tonight? Your mother's making pot roast." "I'm sure she is." I watched Vara sip her coffee, completely calm. "Let me guess. Corey will be there too?" "Well, yes. We thought it would be good for everyone to sit down together. Work this out like adults." "Work it out." I repeated his words back to him, tasting the bitterness. "And what exactly are we working out, Dad?" "Look, these things happen. Vara and Corey, they have feelings for each other. Real feelings. We think the best thing for everyone would be if you could find a way to be understanding about this. Handle it quietly." Handle it quietly, like a business transaction, like a problem to be managed rather than a betrayal that had just blown up my entire life. "I'll call you back," I said, and hung up. Vara was watching me now, her green eyes calculating. "They're right, you know. Fighting this won't change anything. Corey and I, we're going to be together. We're going to raise this child together." "Just like that?" "Just like that." She took another sip of coffee. "I've already talked to Jennifer at the law firm. She says the engagement can be dissolved quietly. No mess, no drama." I stared at her. This woman I'd planned to marry in 4 months. This woman I'd bought a ring for, saved money for, dreamed of building a life with. She'd already talked to a lawyer. "How long have you been planning this?" I asked. "Planning what?" "This conversation, this dissolution. How long have you known you were going to blow up our relationship and had your exit strategy ready?" For the first time, something flickered across her face. Not guilt, more like annoyance that I was making this difficult. "I'm trying to handle this maturely, Zane. The least you could do is meet me halfway." "Maturely," I nodded slowly. "Right, because having an affair with my brother while planning our wedding is the height of maturity." "Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic." The laugh came out louder this time. "Vara, you're pregnant with my brother's child. My parents apparently think I should just smile and accept it, and you've already consulted a lawyer. But I'm being dramatic." She set down her coffee cup with a sharp click against the marble countertop. Another upgrade I'd paid for last Christmas. "What do you want me to say, Zane? That I'm sorry? Fine. I'm sorry. But I'm not sorry about the baby, and I'm not sorry about Corey. We're happy together. Happier than you and I have been in months." When exactly did you decide I wasn't good enough anymore? It's not about good enough. Her voice softened slightly, which somehow made it worse. We want different things. You're content running your little electrical business, living in this house, staying in this town forever. I want more than that. More than that. I looked around our kitchen. The custom cabinets I'd installed, the breakfast nook I'd built with my own hands, the life I thought we were building together. What does Corey offer that I don't? Ambition. Vision. He's going places, Zane. Real places. Corey was a car salesman at the Chevrolet dealership downtown. He'd been there for 3 years and had never sold enough cars to make it onto the monthly leaderboard, but he dressed well and talked a good game, which had always been enough to impress our parents. Real places, I repeated, like the backseat of a Chevy Tahoe. Don't be crude. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Mom. I declined the call and watched as a text message appeared. Please come to dinner tonight. We need to work this out as a family. As a family, right. I walked to our bedroom and pulled out the small fireproof safe I kept in the closet. Inside were all our important documents, insurance papers, property deeds, business contracts, my will, everything that tied my life to Vara's and hers to mine. What are you doing? She asked from the doorway. Handling it quietly, I said, gathering the papers into a neat stack. Just like everyone wants. I spent the next hour at the kitchen table, going through every document. The house was in my name. I'd bought it before we got engaged. The business accounts were mine, though I'd added Vara as an emergency contact on several. The wedding venue contract had both our signatures, but the deposit had come from my account. The life insurance policy where I'd named her as beneficiary. The joint savings account we'd opened for the wedding. The family business accounts where I served as guarantor for a $200,000 line of credit. By the time I finished, I had 3 piles. Mine, hers, and ours. The ours pile was surprisingly small. Vara had left for work while I was sorting papers. She'd kissed my cheek on her way out, actually kissed my cheek, and told me she hoped I'd make the right decision about dinner tonight. I made a decision, all right. The first call was to our wedding venue. I need to cancel our October booking, I told the events coordinator. Oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. There is a cancellation policy. I understand. Please send the final invoice to this address. I gave her Vara's law firm. The second call was to my business accountant. Tom, I need you to remove Vara Hutchins from all emergency contact lists and account access authorizations. Everything okay, Zane? Wedding's off. I need this done today. I'll take care of it. The third call was harder. My business partner, Rick, had been with me since the beginning. He'd invested his own money when we expanded last year. I need to make some changes to our banking arrangements, I told him. What kind of changes? I'm removing my personal guarantees from the family business accounts, effective immediately. Rick was quiet for a long moment. That's going to cause some problems for your dad's operation. I know. You want to talk about what's going on? Not really. Can you handle the paperwork? Yeah, I can handle it. But Zane, whatever's happening, make sure you're thinking this through. I've been thinking about it all morning. The fourth call was to my insurance agent. I need to change my beneficiary information. By 2 o'clock, I had a neat stack of forms to sign and documents to file. Everything that legally tied me to Vara or obligated me to support my family's business was being severed. Clean cuts, no loose ends. My phone had been ringing steadily. Mom, Dad, Corey, even Vara. I let them all go to voicemail. The last thing I did was write a brief email to my parents' accountant, copying my father. Effective immediately, I am terminating all personal guarantees and financial support previously provided to Merrinor Family Holdings and associated accounts. Formal documentation to follow. Please direct all future inquiries to your legal counsel. I hit send and closed the laptop. Then I started packing. The storage unit on Maple Street had been my secret for 2 years. Not a secret from Vara, she knew about it, but a secret from my family. Inside were boxes of documents, backup drives, and records that told the real story of how Merrinor Electric had grown from a one-man operation to the most successful electrical contractor in 3 counties. I'd started keeping records there after the 3rd time Dad had suggested I should bring Corey into the business as a partner. Corey, who couldn't balance his own checkbook. Corey, who'd never held a job for more than 2 years. Corey, the golden child who could do no wrong. My phone buzzed as I loaded the last box into my truck. Another voicemail from Dad. I played this one. Zane, what the hell are you doing? Tom Martinez called and said you're pulling your guarantees from our accounts. You can't just... Look, we need to talk about this. Come to dinner tonight. We'll work something out. Work something out. Like they'd worked out Corey's gambling debts 2 years ago by having me co-sign a loan. Like they'd worked out his car payments by adding them to the family business expenses. Like they'd worked out every mess Corey had ever made by expecting me to clean it up. I drove across town to Red's boxing gym. Red Kowalski had been my friend since high school, back when we were both scrappy kids who settled disputes with our fists instead of lawyers. Now he ran the gym where half the cops and firefighters in town came to blow off steam. "You look like someone stole your lunch money," Red said when I walked in. He was wrapping his hands, getting ready for his afternoon workout. Worse, someone stole my fiancée. I told him the whole story while we worked the heavy bags. Red listened without interrupting, which was one of the things I'd always liked about him. He didn't offer advice unless you asked for it, and he didn't pretend to understand things he'd never experienced. "So what's your play?" he asked when I finished. "I don't have a play. I'm done playing." "That's not how your family's going to see it." My family stopped being my family the minute they decided Corey knocking up my fiancée was something I should just accept. Red unwrapped his hands and tossed the tape into a bin. "You know they're going to come after you. Your dad's business depends on those guarantees." "I know." "And your brother's going to try to spin this like you're the bad guy." "Probably." "And your fiancé's going to take everything she can in the breakup." "There's not much to take. I was careful about that." Red studied my face. "You've been planning this for a while." "Not this specifically, but I've been preparing for the possibility that my family might choose Corey over me. Again." We finished our workout in comfortable silence. As I was getting ready to leave, Red grabbed my arm. "Don't do anything stupid, Zane. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but don't let that anger turn you into someone you're not. I'm not going to hurt anyone. I'm not worried about you hurting them. I'm worried about you hurting yourself." I drove home to find Corey's car in my driveway. He was sitting on my front porch, still wearing his dealership polo shirt and khakis. The golden child, waiting to explain why his latest mess wasn't really his fault. "We need to talk," he said as I got out of my truck. "No, we don't." "Zane, come on. This is hard for everyone." I stopped halfway up the walk. "Hard for everyone? Really? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you got everything you wanted." Corey stood up, smoothing down his shirt. At 28, he was 2 years younger than me and had never quite grown out of the pretty boy looks that had gotten him out of trouble throughout childhood. Blonde hair, blue eyes, the kind of smile that made people want to trust him even when they shouldn't. "I didn't plan this," he said. "It just happened." "Things don't just happen, Corey. You made choices. Vara made choices. You chose to sleep with my fiancée, and she chose to let you. We fell in love." The words hit me like a slap. Not because they hurt, though they did, but because of how easily he said them. Like love was an excuse for anything. Like love made betrayal acceptable. "When?" I asked. "When what?" "When did you fall in love? Was it before or after you started screwing her behind my back?" Corey's jaw tightened. "Don't talk about her like that." "Like what? Like she's a woman who was engaged to one man while sleeping with his brother? Because that's exactly what she is. You don't understand. You and Vara, you were never right for each other. She needs someone who can give her the life she wants. And that's you? The guy who's been fired from 3 jobs in 5 years? I'm starting my own business, import-export. There's real money in it, Zane. Real opportunity." Import-export. That was a new one. Last month it had been cryptocurrency. Before that, it was day trading. Corey was always on the verge of making it big, always one deal away from the success that would prove he was better than his blue-collar older brother. "Does Dad know about this business venture?" I asked. I kept my voice even, but I could already feel the familiar knot forming in my chest, the one that always showed up when Corey talked about his latest miracle plan. "He's actually considering investing." Of course he was. Dad had never met one of Corey's schemes he wouldn't fund, usually with money borrowed against the family business accounts I guaranteed. I pictured the spreadsheets, the quiet phone calls from the bank, the way responsibility always found its way back to me. "Well, that's going to be a problem," I said. "Why?" "Because I pulled my guarantees this morning. Dad's credit line just got a lot smaller." I watched the words land, watched his confidence falter as the implications caught up. Corey stared at me. "You can't do that." "I can, and I did. But the business needs that credit. We have the Morrison contract starting next month." His voice sharpened, panic creeping in around the edges. "We?" I laughed, the sound short and humorless. "There's no we, Corey. There's Dad's business, which he's been running into the ground for 10 years, And there's my business, which actually makes money. Oh, I'm done subsidizing his mistakes. This is about Vara. This is about a lot of things. Vara just happened to be the final straw. The words felt heavy but clean, like something finally said out loud after being carried too long. Corey stepped closer, and for a moment I thought he might actually try to fight me. His jaw tightened, fists clenching and unclenching at his sides. He'd never been much of a fighter, but desperation could make people do stupid things. You're going to destroy the family over this? I'm not destroying anything. I'm just done being the family's ATM. What about Mom and Dad? What about everything they've done for you? His voice cracked slightly, the appeal automatic, rehearsed. What have they done for me, Corey? Really? Name one thing they've done for me that they haven't done twice for you? I held his gaze, not giving him space to dodge the question. He opened his mouth to answer, then closed it again. We both knew the truth. Our parents had spent 30 years making excuses for Corey while expecting me to be responsible for both of us. They love you, he said finally. They love the idea of me, the responsible son who cleans up messes and pays bills, but they don't actually respect me and they sure as hell don't value me. That's not true. Then why did they call to tell me I should be understanding about you knocking up my fiancée? Why didn't they call to tell you to stay away from her? Corey didn't have an answer for that. He looked past me, down the street, anywhere but at my face. I need to get inside, I said. I have packing to do. Packing? Where are you going? Away from here, away from all of this. The decision felt solid in my chest, not angry, just final. I walked past him toward the front door, but he grabbed my arm. Zane, wait, we can fix this. Vara and I, we'll figure something else out. We don't have to hurt everyone else. I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. You should have thought about that 6 months ago. Please, I'm asking you as my brother. You stopped being my brother the minute you decided my fiancé was fair game. I shook off his grip and went inside, leaving him standing on the porch. Through the front window, I watched him sit back down on the steps and pull out his phone, probably calling Dad, or Vara, or both. I didn't care anymore. The house felt different as I packed my clothes, smaller somehow, like it had already stopped being home. I took only what I needed: clothes, toiletries, important documents. Everything else could stay. Let Vara and Corey figure out what to do with the furniture and wedding gifts. My phone rang as I was loading my suitcase into the truck. Mom this time. Zane, honey, please come to dinner tonight. We need to talk about this as a family. I'm done talking, Mom. You're upset, and I understand that. But you can't just walk away from everyone who loves you. Everyone who loves me wouldn't have asked me to accept this situation quietly. We're not asking you to accept anything. We're asking you to be reasonable, to think about what's best for everyone. What's best for everyone, or what's easiest for Corey? That's not fair. None of this is fair, Mom, but I'm done pretending otherwise. I hung up and turned off my phone. Then I drove away from the house I'd bought, the life I'd built, and the family that had never really been mine. The motel on the outskirts of town wasn't much to look at, but it was clean and anonymous. I paid cash for a week and settled into room 237 with a view of the highway and a vending machine that hummed all night. It was exactly what I needed, a place to think without interruption. The formal notices went out the next morning. I'd spent most of the night drafting them with the help of my lawyer, a sharp woman named Patricia Chen who specialized in business contracts. She'd looked over my situation and nodded approvingly. You've been careful, she said. Most people in your position would have tangled their finances so completely that separation would take months. I learned early not to trust my family with money. Smart man. These notices will be legally binding within 72 hours. After that, you'll have no financial obligation to any of them. The wedding venue received their notice first. The contract had a cancellation clause that put the entire cost on whoever initiated the cancellation. Since I was pulling out, that meant the remaining balance, $8,000, would be billed to Vara as the secondary contact. The family business accounts were more complicated. Dad had been using my personal guarantees to secure a credit line that currently carried a balance of $67,000. When I pulled those guarantees, the bank would have 30 days to either find new collateral or call in the loan. The insurance changes were simple. Vara was no longer my beneficiary on anything. I'd changed my will too, leaving everything to a scholarship fund for kids from broken homes. By noon, the paperwork was filed and the notices were in the mail. There was no going back now, even if I'd wanted to. My phone had been buzzing constantly since I turned it back on. 17 missed calls from family members, 12 text messages, and one voicemail from Vara that I almost deleted without listening to. Zane, we need to talk. What you're doing. It's not just hurting Corey and me. It's hurting your parents, too. They don't deserve this. Call me back. I saved the message. Something told me I might need it later. The first real confrontation came that afternoon. I was grabbing lunch at Murphy's Diner when Dad walked in. He looked older than I remembered, his hair grayer and his face more lined. Running a failing business while enabling Corey's schemes had taken its toll. "There you are," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "We've been looking everywhere." "I'm not hiding." "No, but you're not answering your phone either." I took a bite of my sandwich and waited for him to continue. Dad had always been a talker when he was nervous, and right now he looked nervous as hell. "The bank called this morning," he said. "They want to discuss our credit arrangements." "I imagine they do." "Zane, you can't just pull the rug out from under us like this. We have contracts to fulfill, employees depending on us." "You have contracts. You have employees. I have my own business to worry about." "Your business exists because of the family business. We gave you your start. You gave me a job wiring houses for $8 an hour while Corey got an allowance for showing up to family dinners." Dad's face reddened. "That's not how it was." "That's exactly how it was. I worked for you for 3 years, Dad. 3 years of getting paid less than your other electricians while being expected to work twice as hard. When I finally started my own company, you accused me of stealing your customers. We worked that out. You worked that out by demanding I guarantee your business loans in exchange for not pursuing a non-compete lawsuit you never would have won." Dad looked around the diner, checking to see who might be listening. Murphy's was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, and our conversation was probably already spreading through the local gossip network. "Let's not do this here," he said quietly. "Why not? You didn't seem concerned about privacy when you called to tell me I should quietly accept my brother getting my fiancée pregnant. Keep your voice down." "Or what? You'll cut me out of the family? Too late." Dad leaned forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "What do you want, Zane? Money? We can work something out." "I don't want your money. I never wanted your money." "Then what?" "I wanted a family that gave a damn about me. I wanted parents who would stand up for me instead of always taking Corey's side. I wanted a brother who wouldn't stab me in the back the first chance he got." "We do give a damn about you." "No, you give a damn about what I can do for you. There's a difference." Dad sat back in the booth, looking defeated. "So that's it? You're just going to walk away from 30 years of family?" "I'm walking away from 30 years of being taken for granted." "And what about Corey? What about the baby? What about them? That's going to be your niece or nephew." The words hit harder than I'd expected. I'd been so focused on the betrayal that I hadn't really thought about the child, an innocent kid who would grow up knowing their uncle hated their father. "That's not my problem," I said, but the words felt hollow. "It could be. You could choose to make it not a problem. By doing what? Pretending this never happened? Playing happy family while Corey raises my ex-fiancé's child? By being the bigger man." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "The bigger man. Right. Because the bigger man always gets screwed over while everyone else gets what they want." "That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant. You want me to suck it up and pretend everything's fine so you don't have to deal with the consequences of Corey's actions." Dad's phone buzzed against the table. He glanced at it and frowned. "The bank," he said. "They want to meet tomorrow morning. Better bring your checkbook. Zane, please, I'm asking you as your father. Don't do this. You stopped being my father the minute you chose Corey over me." I left money for my lunch and walked out of the diner. Dad didn't follow. That evening, I drove past my old house. Corey's car was in the driveway again, and through the front window I could see him and Vara sitting on the couch I'd bought last Christmas. They looked comfortable together. Happy even. Good for them. My phone rang as I was driving back to the motel. Vara's number. "Hello, Vara. We need to talk." "I think we've said everything we need to say." "The wedding venue called me today. They want $8,000 by Friday or they're taking us to court." "You should probably pay them then." "I don't have $8,000, Zane. That was supposed to come from our joint account." "Our joint account that you're no longer authorized to access." "You can't just cut me off like this. Watch me." "I'm pregnant. I'm going to need that money for medical expenses." "Then you should probably ask the father to help out." There was silence on the other end of the line. When Vara spoke again, her voice was different, colder. "You're really going to be this petty?" "Petty? Vara, you're pregnant with my brother's child, and you want me to pay for your medical expenses. In what universe is that reasonable?" "In the universe where we were together for 3 years and engaged for 6 months. In the universe where you claimed to love me." "I did love you, past tense." So that's it? 3 years means nothing because I made one mistake? One mistake. You had a 6-month affair with my brother. That's not a mistake, that's a choice. A series of choices. Fine, choices, but that doesn't erase everything we built together. Actually, it does. That's exactly what it does. I hung up and turned off my phone again. Tomorrow I would start looking for a new place to live, somewhere far enough away that I wouldn't have to see Corey's car in my old driveway or run into Vara at the grocery store. Somewhere I could start over without the weight of family expectations dragging me down. Somewhere I could finally be free. 3 days later, the consequences started hitting like dominoes falling in sequence. I was having coffee at a different diner across town when Rick called with an update. "Your dad's in trouble," he said without preamble. "The bank called in the loan. He's got 2 weeks to come up with $67,000 or they're seizing assets." "That's unfortunate." "Zane, I know you're angry, but I'm not angry anymore. I'm done. There's a difference. His business employs 8 people. His business has been bleeding money for years. Those 8 people would be better off working for someone who knows how to run a company." Rick was quiet for a moment. "What about the Morrison contract? That's $250,000 in revenue. What about it? If your dad can't fulfill it, Morrison will sue. That could bankrupt him completely." Then he should have thought about that before he decided to prioritize Corey's feelings over basic business sense. "Jesus, Zane, I've never heard you talk like this. You've never seen me pushed this far." After Rick hung up, I sat in the diner for another hour, watching traffic pass by the window. Part of me, a small part, felt guilty about what was happening to Dad's business, but a larger part felt something I hadn't experienced in years: freedom. For 30 years, I'd been the responsible one, the one who cleaned up messes, paid bills, and made sacrifices so everyone else could be comfortable. Now, for the first time in my adult life, I was only responsible for myself. It felt incredible. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Corey. We need to meet. Name the place." I typed back, "Murphy's Diner. 1 hour." He was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with his back to the wall. He looked like he hadn't slept much. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and his clothes were wrinkled. "You look terrible," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "Thanks. You look great, by the way. Really relaxed." "I am relaxed. It's amazing what happens when you stop caring about other people's problems." Corey leaned forward, clasping his hands on the table. "Dad's business is going under." "I heard. 8 people are going to lose their jobs." "Probably. And you don't care?" "Why should I care? None of those people cared enough about me to speak up when Dad was using my credit to keep them employed." "They didn't know about that. But you did. Dad did. Mom did. Vara did. And not one of you thought there was anything wrong with it." Corey ran his hands through his hair. "What do you want? Money? An apology? What's it going to take to fix this?" "You can't fix this." "Everything can be fixed." "No, Corey. Some things, once broken, stay broken." "That's not true." "Really? Then fix Mom and Dad's marriage. They've been sleeping in separate bedrooms for 2 years, but they're still pretending everything's fine. Fix that." Corey blinked. "How did you—" "I pay attention. Unlike the rest of you, I actually notice what's happening around me. That's different." "Is it? Or is it just another family problem that everyone expects someone else to solve?" The waitress came over to refill my coffee. Corey ordered a Coke and waited until she was gone before speaking again. "Vara's scared." "Of what?" "Of what you might do next." I laughed. "What I might do? I'm not the one who blew up our relationship. I'm not the one who got pregnant by someone else's brother. She thinks you might try to hurt her career." "Her career?" I set down my coffee cup. "Corey, I don't give a damn about her career." "She says you have pictures." "Pictures of what?" "Of her, with me. She thinks you might have hired someone to follow us." I stared at him. "You think I hired a private investigator to spy on you?" "Did you?" "No, you idiot. I found out about your affair because she left a pregnancy test in the bathroom trash. I didn't need to hire anyone. You two weren't exactly subtle." Corey looked relieved, which annoyed me more than it should have. "But now that you mention it," I continued, "maybe I should look into her career. I mean, if she's worried about it, there might be something worth worrying about." "Don't." "Why not? What's she hiding?" "Nothing. She's not hiding anything." "Then why is she scared?" Corey didn't answer, which was answer enough. "Let me guess," I said. "She's been using her position at the law firm to help you with something. Maybe that import-export business you mentioned. Maybe some legal advice that wasn't exactly above board." "It's not like that." "Then what's it like?" She helped me understand some contracts. Nothing illegal." What kind of contracts? Business contracts? For the import business? The import business that doesn't exist yet? It exists. I've been working on it for months. With whose money? Corey's jaw tightened. That's not your concern. It is if it's Dad's money, or Mom's, or money borrowed against accounts I guaranteed. It's not. Then whose money is it? Mine. Corey, you sell cars for a living. You've never made more than $30,000 a year in your life. Where exactly did you get the capital to start an import business? He didn't answer. Let me guess, I said. You found an investor, someone who believed in your vision, someone who was willing to take a risk on Corey Merrinor's latest get-rich-quick scheme. It's not a scheme. What's the investor's name? I can't tell you that. Why not? Because it's confidential. I leaned back in the booth and studied my brother's face. He was lying, but there was something else, something that looked almost like fear. Corey, what have you gotten yourself into? Nothing I can't handle. That's what you said about the gambling debts, and the credit card bills, and the car payments you couldn't make. This is different. How? Because this time I'm not asking you to bail me out. No, this time you're asking me to bail out Dad so he can bail you out. That's not... Corey stopped himself. Look, I know you're angry. I know I screwed up. But this is bigger than just you and me. No, it's not. It's exactly about you and me. It's about 30 years of you making messes and me cleaning them up. It's about you always getting what you want while I get stuck with the bill. I never asked for that. You never asked me to stop either. Corey was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was softer. What if I leave? What? What if Vara and I leave town? Move somewhere else? Would that be enough? Enough for what? Enough for you to help Dad. Enough for you to not destroy the family business. I considered the offer. It was tempting. Having them gone would certainly make things easier. But it didn't address the real problem. Where would you go? I don't know. Somewhere far away. With what money? You just told me all your capital is tied up in this mysterious import business. Corey looked uncomfortable. We'd figure it out. Right. You'd figure it out. And when you couldn't figure it out, you'd come back. And then we'd be right back where we started. No, we wouldn't. I'd make it work. Like you made the car sales work, like you made the day trading work, like you made every other business opportunity work. This is different. They're all different, Corey. Until they're not. I stood up and left money on the table for my coffee. Where are you going? He asked. Away from here. Away from all of this. Zane, wait, please. I'm trying to make this right. You can't make this right. You can't undo sleeping with my fiancée. You can't undo getting her pregnant. You can't undo 30 years of being the golden child while I was the workhorse. So what happens now? Now you figure out how to be an adult without me cleaning up your messes. I walked out of the diner and didn't look back. The call came at 6 a.m, 3 days later. Mom's voice was shaky, desperate in a way I'd never heard before. Zane, honey, please. You have to help us. I was already awake, sitting on the motel room's single chair and watching the sunrise through the thin curtains. I'd been expecting this call. What's wrong, Mom? The bank. They came yesterday. They took everything, the equipment, the trucks, even Dad's tools. 30 years of building that business, and it's gone. I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry? Her voice cracked. That's all you have to say? Sorry? What else do you want me to say? I want you to say you'll help us fix this. I want you to say you still care about your family. I care about my family. The problem is my family doesn't care about me. That's not true. Really? Then why did you call to tell me I should quietly accept Corey's betrayal instead of calling to tell him to stay away from my fiancée? Because we hoped you'd be the bigger person. There it is again, the bigger person. Do you know what being the bigger person has gotten me, Mom? 30 years of being taken advantage of. We never took advantage of you. You used my credit to keep Dad's business afloat. You expected me to co-sign Corey's loans. You asked me to pay for his car, his apartment, his gambling debts. How is that not taking advantage? Mom was crying now. I could hear Dad in the background asking who was on the phone. We're going to lose the house, she said. What do you mean? Dad. He took out a second mortgage last year to cover the business expenses. If we can't make the payments... How much? $40,000. We need $40,000 by next Friday or the bank forecloses. I closed my eyes. Of course. Of course Dad had mortgaged their house to fund his failing business. Of course he'd never mentioned it. Of course they expected me to bail them out. "Where's Corey?" I asked. He's not in a position to help right now." "What does that mean?" "He had to leave town. There were some complications with his business venture." "What kind of complications?" "I don't know all the details. Something about the people he was working with. They weren't good people, Zane." I felt a chill run down my spine. "Mom, what exactly did Corey get involved in?" "I don't know. He won't tell us. He just said he had to disappear for a while until things cooled down." "And he left Vara behind?" "She's staying with us now. She doesn't have anywhere else to go." Perfect. So now my parents were supporting my pregnant ex-fiancée while Corey ran away from whatever mess he'd created. "Mom, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I am not going to give you $40,000. "Zane, please. I'm not finished. I'm not going to give you money. I'm not going to co-sign any more loans, and I'm not going to bail Corey out of whatever trouble he's gotten himself into." "But the house? The house is your problem. You and Dad made the decision to mortgage it. You deal with the consequences. We're your parents. You're Corey's parents. You made that clear a long time ago." I hung up and turned off my phone. An hour later, there was a knock on my motel room door. I looked through the peephole and saw Vara standing in the hallway, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. "I know you're in there," she said. "We need to talk." I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "Talk." "Can I come in? People are staring." I looked past her at the empty parking lot. "What people?" "Please, Zane, just give me 5 minutes." Against my better judgment, I stepped aside and let her enter. She looked around the sparse room, taking in the single bed, the cheap furniture, the suitcase in the corner. "This is where you've been staying. It's temporary. You don't have to live like this. You have a house. I had a house. Now you and Corey have a house. We're not living there anymore. I'm staying with your parents." "So I heard. Where's Corey?" Vara sat down on the room's single chair, the one I'd been occupying when Mom called. She looked tired, older than her 26 years. "He's gone." "Gone where?" "I don't know. He left Tuesday night. Said he'd call when it was safe." "Safe from what?" "The people he borrowed money from." "How much money?" $200,000. I stared at her. $200,000? For what?" "His import business. He said it was a sure thing. He said we'd be rich." "And you believed him?" I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe we could have the life he promised." "What life was that?" "A real life. A life with possibilities. Not just this." She gestured vaguely, encompassing the motel room, the town, everything she considered beneath her. "This is a real life, Vara. It's just not the life you wanted." "I know that now." "Do you? Because it sounds like you're here to ask me to fix things. Again." "I'm not asking you to fix anything. I'm asking you to forgive me." "Why?" "Because I made a mistake. Because I was scared of being ordinary. Because I thought Corey could give me something you couldn't." "And what was that?" "Excitement, adventure, a chance to be someone important." "And how did that work out for you?" Vara's eyes filled with tears. "He left me, Zane. When things got dangerous, he just left. He didn't even say goodbye." "I'm sorry." "Are you? Really?" "I'm sorry you're hurt. I'm sorry you're scared. I'm sorry you're pregnant and alone. But I'm not sorry this happened." "What do you mean?" "I mean, you needed to learn that actions have consequences. You needed to learn that the grass isn't always greener. You needed to learn that the person who really loved you was the one you threw away." "I know that now." "Do you? Or do you just know that Corey turned out to be exactly what I always said he was? Selfish, irresponsible, and unreliable?" Vara wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway." "Why?" "Because I'm scared. Because I don't know what I'm going to do. Because the father of my child is gone and I have nowhere else to turn." "What about your family?" "My parents disowned me when they found out about the affair. They said I made my bed and now I have to lie in it." "Smart parents." "Zane, please. I know you hate me, but I don't hate you." "You don't?" "No. Hate requires caring, and I don't care about you anymore. I don't care what happens to you. I don't care about your baby, and I don't care about the mess Corey left behind." The words hit her like physical blows. She doubled over slightly, as if I'd punched her in the stomach. "You don't mean that." "I absolutely mean that. You chose Corey. You chose excitement over stability, adventure over loyalty, possibilities over reality. Now you get to live with that choice." "But the baby is not my responsibility. The baby is Corey's responsibility, and since Corey ran away, the baby is your responsibility. I can't do this alone. You should have thought about that before you decided to get pregnant with someone else's child." Vara stood up slowly, her hand still resting on her stomach. "So that's it? You're just going to let me struggle? Let your niece or nephew grow up without a family? That child will have a family, you, and maybe someday Corey will grow up enough to be a father, but that family won't include me. What if I told you I still loved you? I'd say you're lying, to me and to yourself. What if I told you I made the biggest mistake of my life? I'd say you're probably right, but it's still your mistake to live with." Vara walked to the door, then turned back to face me. "You used to be a good man, Zane." "I used to be a fool. There's a difference." She left without another word, and I locked the door behind her. That afternoon, I drove to the bank and opened a new account. Then I transferred every penny from my old accounts, the ones Vara had known about, the ones my family had expected to access in emergencies. The money went into an account with only my name on it, an account no one else knew existed. Then I called a real estate agent and put my house on the market. It was time to start over. Completely. The house sold in 3 days. Cash offer, no inspection, closing in 2 weeks. The buyer was a developer who planned to tear it down and build something bigger. Perfect. I used the proceeds to buy a small cabin on a lake 2 hours north. It needed work, new wiring, updated plumbing, fresh paint, but it was mine. Completely and totally mine. For the first time in my adult life, I owned something that no one else had a claim to. On my last day in town, I drove past my parents' house. There was a foreclosure notice on the front door and Vara's car in the driveway. Through the window, I could see her sitting at the kitchen table, probably trying to figure out how to pay bills with no income. I felt nothing. At Murphy's Diner, I ordered one last cup of coffee and sat in the booth where I'd had my final conversation with Dad. The waitress, an older woman named Betty who'd been there for 20 years, recognized me. "Heard you're leaving town," she said. "That's right. Shame about your family's troubles." "Is it?" Betty studied my face. "You don't seem too broken up about it." "I'm not." "That's cold, honey. Family's family." "No," I said. "Family's supposed to care about each other. What I had was a group of people who shared my last name and expected me to solve their problems. Still, family is family. Family doesn't matter much if there's no respect behind it." I finished my coffee, left a generous tip, and walked out of Murphy's Diner for the last time. As I drove out of town, I passed the sign that had welcomed visitors for as long as I could remember. "Thanks for visiting. Come back soon." I wouldn't be coming back. Ever. In my rearview mirror, I watched the town shrink and disappear. 30 years of my life, reduced to a dot on the horizon. It felt like the best thing that had ever happened to me.